and you're looking at a Kevin Durant and you're looking at a Steph Curry. But then when y'all say who the greatest, y'all talk about the guy that gave you some shoes and, gave you some warm-ups.
When it comes to Michael Wood Jordan, the NBA player, the icon, the global phenomenon, attacking this man's legacy is extremely difficult. When you look at what Jordan actually did on the court, the level of dominance almost speaks for itself.
Not only is it the product of hydration, the product of footwear, etc., it's also the media spin that they to really push these campaigns.
We're not just talking about a great player. We're talking about a performer who delivered under pressure again and again, almost flawless when the spotlight was the brightest. And off the court, his influence exploded worldwide in a way the league had never seen before.
Zeke, I'd like to say congratulations to Chicago also. Michael Jordan is truly the greatest of all time. No other athlete could have done what he did this year.
During the 1990s, the NBA experienced massive growth, more than the previous 25 years combined, and Jordan was right at the center of that global expansion. His legacy isn't something temporary. It's something deeply cemented in basketball history. But despite all of that, modern debates continue trying to chip away at Jordan's reputation, slowly and subtly, year after year. Narratives shift, conversations evolve, and suddenly, younger fans start questioning things that once felt unquestionable. That's where voices like Isaiah Thomas enter the conversation. Now let's be honest, Isaiah Thomas clearly has a long history of tension with Michael Jordan, and that context matters. Everyone knows there has been friction between them for decades.
And then you turn around, but in your era, LeBron James sitting there, he holding every single basketball record. I mean, every single one of them. And you're looking at a Kevin Durant and you're looking at a Steph Curry. But then when y'all say who the greatest, y'all talk about the guy that gave you some shoes and, gave you some warm-ups.
But the real issue here isn't personal dislike. It's the strength of the arguments themselves. When analyzing his takes as an analyst, the biggest concern is that the reasoning sometimes feels vague and lacking strong supporting facts. When the conversation shifts toward LeBron James, the claims become even more questionable. Instead of highlighting specific playoff runs, statistical dominance, or defining moments, the argument often leans on broad statements. Saying verbatim that LeBron James has all the NBA records is simply not accurate.
Y'all talk about the guy that gave you some shoes and, gave you some warm-ups. I'm a historian of the game, and I'm not a hater. I'm just, when I speak facts, people think it's hate. LeBron James sitting there, he holding every single basketball record. I know we talk about Jordan, but he leads in no statistical basketball category. But yet we say there's an argument about him being the best. But then when you look at Kareem and you look at LeBron, those guys lead in several statistical categories.
That kind of exaggeration weakens the credibility of the point being made. Facts matter, details matter, and when discussing players of this caliber, precision is everything. Then comes one of the most controversial claims of all, the idea that Jordan's legacy is mainly built on shoes, merchandise, and advertising deals. That narrative completely ignores the competitive greatness that built the brand in the first place. The championships, the clutch performances, the defining moments, those are the foundation. The business empire came after the dominance, not before. Any serious NBA fan or basketball historian understands that reducing Jordan's legacy to products alone completely misses the bigger picture. When you really look at Michael Jordan's legacy, even if he never sold a single pair of shoes, never signed a single endorsement deal, and never appeared in a single commercial, he would still be the greatest player of all time, based purely on what he did on the court.
Now, everybody concentrates on his great moves, but look at the simple things. Just a little easy pump fake, lines it up, gets himself square, and goes up in perfect form. That's what makes him the great player. It's not the flashy things, it's the little simple things that he does. It's his fundamental base combined with his skill base that makes him the greatest player to ever play.
His game alone is strong enough to stand without any marketing machine behind it. The dominance, the skill, the consistency under pressure. That's what built the legend first. Everything else came later. At his peak, especially between 1989 and 1993, Jordan's postseason performances were simply untouchable. Nobody matched that level of complete control over the game when it mattered most.
I know we talk about Jordan, but he leads in no statistical basketball category.
During that 5-year stretch, Jordan averaged 34.4 points, 6.8 assists, 6.7 rebounds, and 2.3 steals per game on elite efficiency. Those are not opinions. Those are hard facts backed by real data. Anyone can verify it by watching the games or checking the stat sheets. That level of production in the playoffs shows total dominance across every major category.
Zeke? I'd like to say congratulations to Chicago also. Michael Jordan is truly the greatest of our time. No other athlete could have done what he did this year.
Here's the evidence.
When comparing arguments, one side presents numbers, performances, and historical context, while the other often relies on broad claims without pointing to specific data that clearly surpasses Jordan's peak. Looking specifically at the 1989 playoff run, Jordan showed something most players could never replicate. He essentially played point guard and still carried the Bulls deep into the postseason. During that stretch, he recorded 7 games with at least 30 points and 10 assists, one of the highest totals ever recorded in playoff history. That level of versatility shows how complete his skill set truly was. He could control the pace, create opportunities for teammates, and still dominate as a scorer whenever needed. Then came 1990, when defenses were fully focused on stopping him as a scorer, yet Jordan elevated his game even further. That year, he averaged an incredible 36.7 points per game in the playoffs, while still leading his team deep into the Eastern Conference competition.
Top 5 point guards of all time. This is going to be a good one.
Well, I got to go size in terms of category. Okay. Because when you look at, Magic and Oscar Robertson, I put them in a different category.
Okay.
So we're going to say they're the best.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
And when you get to small people my size, I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
When reviewing NBA postseason history, that scoring average remains among the highest ever recorded over a full playoff run of significant length. Very few players have ever even approached that level of scoring consistency against elite playoff defenses.
And when you get to small people my size, I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
He leads in no statistical basketball category, but yet we say there's an argument about him being the best.
From 1991 through 1993, Jordan reached his absolute peak. In the 1991 finals against the Lakers, he delivered one of the 8 most complete finals performances ever seen. He averaged 11.4 assists per game during that series, the highest ever recorded by a non-point guard in the finals. He even managed to outplay Magic Johnson in areas many thought would favor Magic. That series proved Jordan was far more than just a scorer. He could control every aspect of the game at the highest possible level. In 1992, critics questioned whether Jordan had a reliable outside shot. Compared to players like Clyde Drexler, Jordan responded by averaging 35 points per game in the finals, while shooting 53% from the field, 43% from 3, and 89% from the free throw line. That level of efficiency on the biggest stage showed how quickly he could adapt and silence doubts. Then in 1993, against one of the strongest offensive teams in the league, Jordan delivered 41 points per game in the finals, still the highest scoring average in a finals series to this day. Performances like that are why so many consider him the GOAT. Because when evaluating greatness, the peak matters. The ability to dominate the strongest competition under the brightest pressure with everything on the line. That defines true legacy. Reducing Jordan's career to endorsements or branding ignores the foundation that made those opportunities possible. His postseason performances remain some of the most impressive displays of individual excellence in basketball history. This is also why certain past statements become very important. In previous interviews, Isaiah Thomas himself acknowledged Jordan's greatness, even stating clearly that Michael Jordan was the greatest player of all time, ahead of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who at that time held the all-time scoring record. That detail matters because it shows how opinions have shifted over time. By 1998, Jordan was not leading every all-time statistical category related to longevity, yet he was still widely recognized as the greatest based on impact and dominance at his peak. At that stage of his career, Jordan ranked 3rd all-time in total points, 3rd in steals, 25th in assists, and 35th in blocks. Even without holding every cumulative record, his overall influence on the game was undeniable. Statements made during that era highlight how greatness was evaluated based on performance, championships, and impact, not just longevity totals. When it comes to all-time total statistics, being first in points, assists, steals, and other longevity categories, those numbers absolutely matter, but they are not the only factor when deciding the GOAT debate. Total stats alone do not automatically decide who the greatest player ever is. We already saw that back in 1998 when Isaiah himself did not rely purely on longevity totals to rank Michael Jordan ahead of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That detail is extremely important because it shows that even historically, greatness has never been judged by totals alone. The reason that clip matters is very simple. When Isaiah Thomas ranks the greatest point guards of all time, he includes names like Magic Johnson, Oscar Robertson, himself, John Stockton, and others. Saying Magic and Oscar Robertson are at or near the top is a completely reasonable opinion. Most fans would agree those legends changed the position forever. But when we apply the same logic used in the LeBron versus Jordan debate, the argument starts to fall apart very quickly. Because if total all-time statistical rankings are the most important factor, then Magic and Oscar are not first in multiple categories among point guards. For example, Russell Westbrook actually ranks extremely high all-time among point guards in categories like points and rebounds. Westbrook is an MVP, a future Hall of Famer, and one of the most dynamic players the league has ever seen. But despite those massive numbers, most analysts and fans would still rank Magic Johnson ahead of Westbrook. Why? Because greatness is about more than just stacking totals. It's also about championships, impact, leadership, and performing when the pressure is at its highest. And this is exactly where the inconsistency becomes impossible to ignore. Isaiah Thomas himself is often ranked ahead of John Stockton on all-time point guard lists. Many fans agree with that ranking, and there are strong arguments supporting Isaiah's impact and championships. But when you compare their total statistical numbers, John Stockton actually leads in multiple categories, including being the all-time NBA leader in assists and steals. If total stats were truly the deciding factor every time, Stockton would automatically rank higher. Yet that is not how most people evaluate their legacies. So the overall point becomes very clear. When total stats support a certain argument, suddenly they become extremely important. But when those same stats contradict a different argument, they suddenly become less relevant. That inconsistency creates confusion and weakens the credibility of the position being presented. The GOAT debate has always involved multiple factors: peak dominance, championships, impact on the game, and performance under the brightest lights. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep dives into debates like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for the next one.